Hi everyone, welcome to this webinar on SQE Prep with BARBRI, top tips for online learning. My name is Hemant Jahan, I'm legal advisor at BARBRI in the London office. I'm here with my colleague Mariam. Mariam, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi, my name is Mariam Solomon. I work as a legal coordinator at the London office as well, alongside Hemant.
Fantastic. And we are both studying on the Extended U.S. Bar Prep course for the New York Bar in July 2021. So we're existing students of the course, and this is simply just going to be a very conversational dialogue between me and Mariam about how we utilize the BARBRI resources, the online personal study plan, and all the features that help us prepare for a centralized legal assessment, that being in the States. So, Mariam, did you just want to kick off maybe with talking about the online personal study plan, about the course?
Sure. So your BARBRI course will be presented via your personal study plan. And I think one top tip from myself is not to divulge away from the personal study plan, because I think as students, and Helen's laughing with me because I think as students we're so used to doing the heavy lifting, so used to, looking at our subjects, knowing, getting our hard copy textbooks maybe, and thinking, oh, we have to come up with a study plan, we have to figure out how we're going to spend the next however long your course is studying, and you want to prepare yourself. And there's no need for that, because the personal study plan contains everything that you need to do. BARBRI has actually done all of the hard work, and it's so easy, I think, from our student background to think that we have to figure out a plan and we
do the hard
to
work. Exactly.
And I think that's the biggest kind of culture shock when it comes to studying with BARBRI, because everything's done for you. All you have to do, and obviously you do have to work, but all you have to do is log on and do your assignments. Everything's been done for you, even revision. It's all scheduled in a weekly schedule that's best to help prepare you for the exam and leading into the scheduled exam. So I think the first tip would be, don't do too much outside of your personal study plan, because BARBRI experts have curated your personal study plan in order for you to be successful in the relevant exam. So I think that's a big tip, because I think at the beginning I wasted a lot of time trying to do my own thing when it was really unnecessary. And it's such a easy habit to fall into. I think, I'm not sure, Helen, if you had the same, but you sign up to the course, operations will email you, you'll get all of your materials, and you think, okay, so I'm doing this course, I'm going to do this, and you just go into your old habits that you probably picked up from university or from when you were studying. And then once you actually get into the swing of the personal study plan, you think, there was no need for this. What was I doing? What was I thinking? But yeah, so that would be my top tip. So just to kind of explain around that, the personal study plan is your weekly guide. So it will contain all of your assignments throughout the whole course, and it will break it down into a weekly guide. So you would log into the platform, and you will see your assignments for that week. Like I said, you will complete the relevant assignments and complete your course. And that's I think the first tip I would give, going straight into the course. Don't fall too much outside of that PSP.
I would agree with that. Completely trust the process. And to add to that, I think as law students, we are, I wouldn't say obsessed, but we don't like to be wrong. And if we're stuck on a particular point of law that we're not understanding or confused, we want to read into it to a depth that we really solidly understand that. But I think when you're preparing for a centralized legal exam, like for us it's the New York Bar, and for anyone who's going to be studying for the SQE or any other centralized legal exam, it's not a first class, second class grade. It's not an A, B, C grade. You're just aiming to pass. And you need to really just trust the process and focus on the plan that BARBRI has assigned. It's all been delivered in a manner so as to make studying as easy and efficient as possible. So when the personal study plan tells you to watch a lecture for 3 hours, don't spend another 2 hours, pausing, fast forward, rewinding that lecture. Just focus on that lecture for 3 hours. And then when they tell you to read an outline for no more than, I don't know, it could be an hour, it could be 2 hours, then literally do that time. The amount of students I see, and I also was still, I guess I'm sort of guilty to an extent that I do go over that because I want to make sure that I fully understand that law and the legal principles, particularly when it's in subjects that I'm struggling in, like federal civil procedure or some elements of contract law, like third-party rights and assignment of duties and things like that, and delegation of duties, or just really minute areas of law. But I realize it's not about being a perfectionist. You just need to be competent in most areas of the law to understand it well enough to apply. And I think that's where BARBRI has done the heavy lifting, so to speak. So you're getting the full amount of lectures. I mean, on the extended US bar prep course, BARBRI's contracted with the top US law professors, Chemerinsky for constitutional law, Professor Rich Tria, he's a cool one for civil procedure. There's also, of course, there's the legendary real property lecture as well. Paula Franzisi, she sings as well. And it helps, actually, particularly when you're studying a dry subject like real property. But equally on the SQE prep, you'll also get subject matter experts assigned for each lecture as well, who deliver the exam lectures as well, relevant for the law. So when BARBRI tells you to do something, definitely just focus on that and don't spend any more time on that, because you're making life actually more difficult for yourself than you think it's making it easier for you. So definitely trust the process. And then when it comes to the outlines, I've got a few. So BARBRI I've given, I mean, this is for the extended US bar prep, but this is the Convisor mini review, probably one of my favorite books actually on the bar review. Mariam, would you agree? Convisor mini review for New York Bar?
Yeah. It's our Bible.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sort of like the Bible in the bar prep course. Full of good outlines, charts, diagrams, and just really concise outlines of the law that you need to know. So yeah, the books are really good. And when they tell you to read an outline for a certain amount, just do that. An hour, 2 hours, just focus on that. And then when it comes to the multiple choice practice questions, 50% of a US bar exam is actually multiple choice, the MBE. So that's a critical portion of the bar exam. And it's going to be the same for SQE Stage 1, completely multiple choice on English law, both substantive and procedural law as well. So, Mariam, how do you prepare for a multiple choice exam, particularly when we're English law graduates and we have only just been, I guess we actually, you could say that we've just only been used to essays and written exams. How do you change your mindset into bar prep for a multiple choice exam?
Well, at first it was obviously very, very hard. Again, it's one of those culture shocks because we're so used to kind of the theoretical kind of rules and the background and principles behind very relevant cases when we're studying our degrees, and then you're going to the next stage, and like with the SQE, it's your functioning legal knowledge, and that's quite different. One thing I will say is that as part of the prep course and as part of the assignments in your personal study plan, there are going to be hundreds, several multiple choice questions, and you're going to be living, breathing and eating multiple choice questions, quite literally. There are so many questions in there, and at first you're probably going to do the old, oh, I'll save them for later. I don't want to be doing preparation, or I don't want to be doing mock exams. And that's where I'd say, do follow the personal study plan. There is a reason why you are being assigned practice questions or multiple choice questions very, very early on in the course. And the reason why is because BARBRI's kind of strategy is with muscle memory, and it's with learning science. And this is what I was saying at the beginning about trust the process, and where Hemant's saying trusting the process is because BARBRI experts and, you know, learning science experts know, and they've figured out and kind of cracked the code that the more questions you do, when you're in that exam and you have just over a minute per question, there's no real time to think, if you'd like. Obviously there is time to think, but it's more going to be a very strategic approach to answering questions. And the best way to do that is doing as much the best way of tackling that is doing as much practice as possible. And and that's the reason. So there is a method to the madness almost. There is a reason why you're going to be assigned multiple choice questions in week 2, perhaps. And that's because of the learning science. So the way to kind of tackling, again, that culture shock would be doing as many questions as possible, keeping up with the program. Don't think that, oh, I shouldn't be doing. And this is another thing I think that we picked up from law school is maybe practicing later once you've got all the knowledge down, or once you've grasped all of the legal rules, you'll then do practice questions. That's not the way that the BARBRI course is structured. You will learn a specific subject, or you'll learn a topic, and then you'll be doing practice questions based on that substantive content. And slowly, week by week, you'll be building up your legal knowledge and your kind of the substantive knowledge, and you'll also be doing questions alongside that, all leading up again to the exam where you're ready to maybe start doing practice questions, like practice exams or mock exams. And there's a reason for that, and it's because the questions itself, the nature of the exam, is another test. Yes, you'll be tested on your legal knowledge, but it's that, can you answer multiple choice questions, and can you answer these questions in just over a minute? And it's hard. It is hard, especially when we're not used to that. I mean, myself and Hemant, we're studying multiple choice kind of question exams when we've never had that experience from law school. But it's something that's that we're hopefully going to be prepared for with the program, because we've been doing so many multiple choice questions throughout our course, so that when we get into the exam, we're not really thinking too much, and we're able to answer these questions because we've done so many of them.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's again that learning science and getting used to the practice questions early on. And to be honest, when I started the course, I was putting off the questions because I wasn't comfortable, honestly, with delving right into the questions, just because both for, I guess, ego and just wanting to perfect my knowledge on a particular outline. So the course would typically start with something like torts and then contracts, and then you're expected to go right into the torts and contracts practice questions. And I wasn't ready to do it. And then when I did start doing it, and I was learning the BARBRI methodology by watching the video lectures and then doing the practice questions, my scores, to say the least, were terrible. But I thought I did know the law until I approached the practice questions. And then it was a big shock to the system, because then I started learning how to read these multiple choice questions. I think it sounds actually really basic, but when you're sitting for a big exam like the New York Bar exam, or even the upcoming SQE, which is going to be a huge multiple choice exam as well for SQE Stage 1, you're going to be in time pressurized conditions. So you want the best prep going in. The only way to master that is to actually do practice questions, but learning from each set why you got each answer right and why you got each answer wrong. The explanatory answers that BARBRI gives are probably one of the best I've seen. And it's actually a really good way of learning the law. So for each question that I did, and for the ones that specifically that I got wrong, or even the ones that I guessed, but I luckily got them right, I'm going over those practice questions. I'm reading through the explanatory answers, and I'm understanding why a certain answer choice like C is correct, because the law says X, Y, Z, and the other choices are wrong because they say. Really understand how to apply a particular legal principle in a particular area of law to a complex fact pattern. Ultimately, that's how we are going to act as lawyers, because clients are going to be coming to us with problems, various legal problems, and your mind is going to be racing through the various legal issues, which is why I think bar exam is a very humbling experience, because you're really having to work out what legal issues are being tested in a time pressurized manner. So yeah, the MBE learning approach, multi-state bar exam, is really invaluable, and I couldn't rate the explanatory answers more, particularly going through them. And because it actually takes twice as long to go through each one, it's very time consuming to go through the explanatory answers. And I think actually as you get into the multiple choice questions, as students, you tend to get carried away. I don't know about if that's the same for you, but you want to do more and more because you want to get more right and right. But actually that's not a good way of learning. So going through the explanatory answers is really important. Do you have anything to say about that, Mariam, about the explanatory answers?
Yeah, I mean, it's very easy to kind of overlook the explanatory answers. So you'll be doing, you'll be doing one assignment which will say 15 multiple choice questions, and they might be mixed, and you would click on the assignment, and then you think you know everything going into this test, and you'll see you got you chose option C and you see you got it wrong, and it's very easy to say, oh, I got it wrong. Oh, okay, it's not that one, it's A. Fine. It's very easy to say, I'll do that next time, and just go on to the next assignment. It's very, very easy to know that you've got something wrong, know what the right answer is, and then pretend that you now know where you went wrong. That you don't, without reading the explanatory answers. And it was actually my mentor that said to me, the explanatory answers are an effective learning tool. Don't overlook them. Don't just be carried away with thinking that, oh, now you know the right answer, you're ready, you're ready to improve, your scores will improve magically. That's not how it works. And it wasn't until I actually looked through the explanatory answers and I saw that they're not just telling you why A was the correct answer and why C is wrong, but they'll actually explain to you why you should never choose B and why D may be a very attractive choice, but it's not the right option in this circumstance. So you've actually got an approach for maybe 3 different possible question scenarios. So that's why the explanatory answers are an effective learning tool, because it's not just preparing you for that one question, but it's preparing you for many other questions on that subject. So I think once you start reading through those explanatory answers and taking the time to reflect on each question that you've got wrong, even the questions that you get right, because that's another mistake, is that, oh, I got it right, perfect, and you're ready to just go on, and then you're seeing that your scores aren't improving that much, and you think that you should now be getting 100%, and you're not. And it's because you still need to be reading the explanatory answers and understanding the science almost behind that question and what the real root of that question is, and why that it's that answer. Because it could have been a lucky guess. You could have just chose you might have been meaning to choose B and you accidentally chose A, and that's why it's right. So it's really important that you're reading those explanatory answers, whether you felt confident going into that test, whether you got 100%, which not likely, but maybe you did. Even if you got 100%, still read through those explanatory answers, because they are probably one of the most valuable resources in getting down that multiple choice strategy, especially for me, because it's quite a very, as you said, a time pressured exercise.
Exam.
You've got just over a minute to read the question, understand what the relevant, subject is, not just legal principles, what subject this is, then what the relevant legal principle is, apply it, and then choose one of the four. It's a lot of work to do in that very short amount of time. So those explanatory answers for me, they're a game changer. But
absolutely, and I think it's mechanically, it's all about that process of completely doing it again and again, but making sure, again, you're going through those explanatory answers, you're understanding. Also, the PSP is really clever because, well, it will generate your percentile score each time you do a multiple choice practice set. So you know whether you're scoring in the 40th percentile, 50th or 60th. And then the more questions that you do, you'll learn where your strengths and weaknesses are. And even if you are strong in certain subjects, guaranteed there'll be certain subtopics within that subject that you'll be weak on. So you might be getting 70% in criminal law, but there may be some subtopics in criminal law where you may only be scoring like 30, 40%. So the more questions that you do, the personal study plan will generate those scores. And then that actually tailors your learning towards that. And that brings me on to the other subject of Isaac, Intuitive Study Assistant and Coach. So BARBRI have incorporated an algorithm in the courses for Extended U.S. Bar Prep and SQE as well, which is a really good way of making a course as flexible as possible. And it's particularly good for those who are working full-time, like me and Mariam, and no doubt other students of the courses as well. So as you start on the course, you'll probably be on track, but the more that you do, and generally life will happen, you'll fall behind some of the time. And it will automatically flex the course in a way so it doesn't make it as overwhelming for you to catch up on. So when you log into your personal study plan, it will generate the list of assignments for you to complete that day and that week. So it doesn't look so overwhelming and burdensome as well. So Isaac is really clever. It will flex the course in a way that's suitable for you as a student. It's a very clever algorithm, so it doesn't make it as overwhelming. And I couldn't rate that more because, as work sometimes gets busy, or sometimes you just don't want to study sometimes. So even if you're on the course, and that's normal as well. And I think BARBRI recognizes that. So we're all human at the end of the day. So it's important to make the course as flexible as possible, particularly for those who have busy lives, working full time, various things on the side with family and friends and other commitments. So I couldn't rate Isaac more. Do you have anything to say about that, Mariam? How does Isaac work for you?
For me, Isaac tends to assign more questions when I don't know the answers to some, or when I'm struggling with something. Yeah, exactly. And it's not always appreciated when I'm trying to move away from a hard subject. But obviously, I need it because I'm not scoring well in it, and I'm obviously not grasping the concept. It can obviously grate because you're being assigned more questions and you're thinking, haven't I done enough questions on this already? And it's because you may be scoring low, or Isaac recognizes that within a subject, a particular subtopic, you're not doing well in, so it will assign you more questions on that, and it's for your own good. Isaac curates questions or assignments based on your performance and on how much time you can dedicate on a weekly basis. So it is for the best. At least that's what I tell myself each time I see more assignments. So
I think studying for a US bar exam and for those who will be studying for the SQE, it's going to be a very humbling experience because you'll recognize that you just may not be strong in some subjects. And that's okay. We all have our strengths and weaknesses. For me, it's civil procedure, and real property, and some areas of contracts actually that I struggle in, and the other subjects I seem to be okay in, but I wouldn't say I'm 100% confident in all subjects, and I think that's normal. You just have to be good enough, and to recognize your strengths and weaknesses is important as well, because that's how you can tailor your studying and ultimately improve. You'll never be 100% perfect. I think it's all part of the learning experience. But then that also goes into... Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I just want to say, as you touched on, Isaac, that's why I said at the beginning, don't spend too much time outside of your personal study plan. Don't spend too much time thinking, oh, I'm really weak on torts. I really don't understand this, or I really love torts. I just don't really understand contract law. So I'm going to spend 2 hours reading the contract law textbook or the contract law section in the textbook that BARBRI sent me. Don't do that, because Isaac will realise that you are not performing in contract law. So what you're actually doing is you are giving yourself more work, because Isaac is going to give you more work on contracts. You have decided, and again, it's perfectly normal, we're not but you have decided that you're going to give yourself more work on contracts. So you're actually double giving yourself a lot more work, and it's going to catch up with you in the long run, because you'll be behind on your assignments. So this is why we said, and that's why I said at the beginning, don't go too far outside of the personal study plan. It is normal for you to want to do more. You can do more, and we do give you hard copy textbooks. Everything is incorporated in your personal study plan. There is no need for you to divulge away from it. And the reason we say this, even if you are struggling, is that your personal study plan is curated for you. It's flexible, and Isaac will adapt your personal study plan on your performance. So that's why we said at the beginning, just trust the process.
Trust the process. Sometimes it's easier said than done. Very easy said. Yeah, because the heavy lifting literally is done for you. But then I think that ties in perfectly then with the other feature, which is the mentor. Probably one of the biggest features, I think, that you get on the course, both for Extended US Bar Prep and for SQE as well. So all students will be assigned a mentor who is an expert personal coach in that exam prep. So for me and Mariam, we've been assigned Odessa, who is actually our head of mentors for US Bar Prep. She is a qualified lawyer in the States, and she also sat for the bar exam with BARBRI whenever she took it. And I think Odessa also used to teach students for the bar in Florida as well, in a law school over there for many years before she joined BARBRI full time as a mentor. And she's absolutely great. And actually also on the SQE, all students will also be assigned an expert tutor as well, who is going to be an English qualified solicitor, who again will have a lot of teaching experience for English legal exams. So yeah, they're going to be very good. Your personal coach right from the beginning through to the very end for when you sit for it. So Odessa has been absolutely great for me. I'm sure she's been great for Mariam as well. But just going off my experience, I think with me, I've been using Odessa more for confidence building and really getting to grips with multiple choice test taking, because it's still something new to me as a skill for a legal assessment. So yeah, Odessa has, for me, the perfect combination of being, a friend and being there for you, but also keeping it very real and being tough when she needs to be. Because I think that's important as well in a mentor, to keep you grounded and to keep you going, and to understand where your strengths and weaknesses are and how can she better your learning experience. So I schedule a number of telephone calls with her, sometimes video calls if we need to share our screens on certain things. And then she has access to my personal study plan progress, so she can tell whether I'm logging in at certain days and times, and how far am I with the plan. She won't be teaching me the law because that's already done through the course, but she's more of a mentor with test taking and skills-based sessions. So she's been absolutely great for me. Again, it's more of that confidence thing, particularly because obviously I've been only trained in England, English law school with an LLB and LLM, no US law school experience or US learning. So for me, that's more important to have someone there who's an expert in this and can help me get there across the finish line. What about you, Mary?
Yeah, same for me. I mean, Dessa, your mentors will check in periodically, regardless of if you engage with them. But it's really up to you to engage with your mentor, because they'll reach out. They'll notice if you're not completing your personal study plan. They'll send you an email and say, is everything okay? What's wrong? Why aren't you completing the personal study plan? But your mentor is your human element. Your mentor is the one that kind of navigates you through everything. So you have your personal study plan, you have your textbooks, but then your mentor is also there to kind of guide you through everything, because it's normal to feel maybe overwhelmed or a little bit confused, or you may be struggling with an area of law. But literally just one conversation with your mentor can actually clear that up. And like Hemant said, it's not about the law. You're not going to your mentor with the kind of deep nitty-gritty questions about contract law. Exactly. That's not what your mentor's there for. Your mentor really is there for exam technique, exam support, study tips, coaching. They're your coach. And I think the best kind of way of putting it, yes, it's a personal mentor, but it's a personal coach to coach you through your prep. And like we said, it's not just the law that you'll be facing on exam, or the struggles, or one of the things that you have to overcome for the exam. It's the technique, it's the study technique, it's being comfortable in that exam mode, it's being comfortable in answering questions in that specific amount of time. So all of these kind of aspects is, aside from the substantive content, is what your mentor will really help guide you through. And yes, so scheduling calls with your mentor, very important. Being honest with your mentor, I think if you can't complete work, if work is, on what you do outside of your prep, if you're working a full-time job or other commitments, if that's taking a heed, if you're unable to study, be honest with your mentor, because your mentor can actually help you. They can alter some assignments. They can recommend the best way to kind of soldier on and make sure that you're not falling behind. So as long as you're open and honest with your mentor, then, that's kind of the key to being successful, and using your mentor and utilizing their experience, because they have seen so many students through similar processes, and they've probably seen everything so far. So it's really important to be as open and honest with your mentor, I think.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. And another tip, I think, for online learning is, well, again, this is, I guess, maybe specific for US bar prep, but it can also be transferable onto SQE prep, is active learning. And Dessa has been a big proponent of active learning. What's the difference between active and passive learning? That's something actually I never learned before, because I think at law school, when I was studying my undergrad and probably even my LLM, I was doing a lot of passive learning, because ultimately law is fundamentally just a set of rules and legal rules that you're learning to apply to fact patterns. That's literally what it is. And studying for the bar is just a lot more of that. But when you're studying for something as huge as this exam and for the SQE, because it's going to be so broad in subjects and knowledge, you unless you have a photographic memory, you're going to have a tough time memorizing and learning all that material, because it's so huge and it's very vast. So I think what I learned with Dessa with active learning is, yes, BARBRI will give you the books like this, convise them in a review, and they'll give you big outlines as well, which you can see I've got mine tabbed up here. And you have to memorize pretty much, wouldn't say memorize per se, but you have to know a lot of that for the test. And so active learning, in the sense of not just reading it and thinking that you know it, putting it into practice. For me, I've never done this before, but I've been making my own flashcards. So I've been reading that and then putting it into motion by making sure I'm doing flashcards or something active. It could be as simple as like reading a particular section of the law, like constitutional law. I'm halfway through my constitutional law flashcards. So learning about Congress, the Senate, the presidency powers, freedom of speech, First Amendment rights, all that. And so to put that into context, I'm literally reading a section of that outline, and then I'm closing the book, and then I'm writing my flashcards. And then I'm thinking, do I actually know this law? Have I actually understood it? So I'm writing down the elements. And sometimes I'm just completely wrong. And I'm like, okay, I actually know I didn't really digest that properly. So that's a good way of, for me, that's active learning. And Odessa's always been a big proponent of that. So using colors, highlighters, highlighting on itself, wouldn't say that's a good thing completely, because again, that's still passive. You're just highlighting, you're not digesting that. It's got to be something active. I know someone else who has a whiteboard at home. I'm thinking of actually getting a whiteboard, and he's put it in his room, and he literally just goes through an area of the law and then writes it on the whiteboard. Does he actually know that? Does he know the elements of assault, battery, and negligent infliction of emotional distress, things like that? You need to know these things from the tip of your tongue, basically, for the test. Hearsay, what are the exceptions to hearsay? So I've been a big believer now in active learning, particularly for something as big as this test. Something's got to give. So, and I know, Mariam, you like to use mind maps, isn't that correct?
Yeah, so I think I've always been a kind of visual learner, and I have to say things out loud to actually get them to stick in my brain. It's always been the way with me. So flashcards have been very helpful, mind maps, but there was actually a tip my mentor gave about the mind maps, and it's not just putting all of the information on a mind map, but keeping it quite relevant to the style of questions, the multiple choice questions. So you group all of the all of the facts by I don't know how to by topic, but how they would come up in the multiple choice questions. So this is another example of how your mentor can actually give you specific advice or specific tips on how to be successful in the exam, but in regards to your studies. So they give you a lot of examples and a lot of suggestions, and this really helped, because I think I would have just done a mind map and put at the middle, criminal law, or maybe made it a little bit more specific to a topic, and just wrote all of the information around there and just try to study that, but actually relating it to so that it mimics what you'll actually see on the exam day is really, really helpful. Obviously, this will make more sense once you start studying and once you actually attend your SQE lectures and see the SQE kind of workshops and actually know what how those questions will look and how they're grouped. But that's something. And as Hemant was saying, being an active learner, it's active learning. It's not passive, which would have been me just putting a topic down and writing everything on the mind map, but actively learning by actually preparing for exam structure is something that definitely helps and is really, really key to making sure that you're doing something that's going to actually help you on exam day. So for me, that was the key to actually doing something better than I would have done. So I think, again, I would have been falling into the old trap of just writing things down, putting loads of rules on a piece of paper. But it is different doing something actively. But hopefully it will continue and I actually do more in preparation for the exam. And I think for me as well, I don't know how you studied spelling, like back when you were studying to spell, but there's a way where you would write the topic. So you'd write down the rule of law and you'd fold it over and you would write down everything you know.
Oh yes,
about
yeah.
That rule of law,
the sort of the blindfold technique, yeah.
That's the one. It was something my mentor recommended to me.
That's a very good
take,
method as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It does take a little bit of work, and it's quite interactive. So you have to actually sit down and actually do it. It's not something that you can, again, passively say, oh yeah, I'm studying, oh yeah, I'm revising. You do have to actually sit down and be quite engaged with it, but it is something that's quite fun. Well, not as fun as studying can be. But so that's something that's worked as well.
Yeah, and let's face it, literally studying for this test, sometimes it's just not fun at all, because I'm just going to be completely honest, you're just learning a load of rules and applying it to fact patterns. So you've got to make it fun and memorable for you as well. So whether it's making flashcards or doing the blindfold technique, or, I don't know, using a whiteboard, or some people are audio learners, so they'll make them voice notes for themselves, things like that, or they like to listen to things on the go. It's got to be something that works for you. So what works for me may not work for Mariam or for someone else. So it's got to be something that requires physical action and movement, in my view, to make it engaging and to really test your knowledge of the subject. And then, last but not least, the practice exams. So BARBRI, for extended US bar prep, I think is it 3 or 4 simulated exams for the US bar, and for SQE there'll also be, I'm not sure of the quantity, but there will be a number of practice exams as well for SQE stage 1, goes without saying. And statistically, when you do those, you have a better chance of passing than those who don't, goes without saying. Because you've got to put yourself in those exam time conditions, in your bedroom, no phone, no computer with you, just your water, and just do those questions in that time manner and see how many you get right, and how well you do. And fundamentally, I don't think you actually know your strengths and weaknesses until you do those practice exams, because that's when it becomes real. So when I did my first simulated MBE, I was, I don't want to say my score, it was not great. It was a fail, 100% fail. But then I realized, actually, okay, I did well in these subjects, but I did horrible in these subjects. Or it was sometimes it was an overall skill that I didn't approach to the exam correctly. So it's through those learning experiences that make you a better test taker, I think, for the exam. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, the simulated exams for me were they were horrible. They were an eye-opener,
they are horrible.
They were. Oh, it was horrible. I think it was very needed. Like I know we've spoken about active kind of learning and passive learning, but I think that was the kind of real awakening that I had been learning passively and not as actively as I thought I had. And it's another example of how, again, you might know everything going in, but it's about the exam technique. You do need that simulated exercise or that simulation to kind of get you to take it a little bit more seriously, or actually have that real exam experience to say, oh, now I understand everything my mentor was saying. Now I get why they're saying this, and it does kind of all come together. So yeah, my simulated exam wasn't great either. And yeah, I remember having a chat with my mentor and actually thinking, I need to do more. I should actually, and I actually ended up revisiting all of the advice that my mentor had previously given me that I thought I had taken on board, and seeing it in a different, you almost see things in a different light after going through that almost exam experience. It's very strange. But it's a very another effective resource to actually get you to power through to take everything seriously, and active learning and personal study plan, sticking with the personal study plan, listening to your mentor, and actually following the prep course in order to pass that exam.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more as well. I think they are awakening calls, those simulated exams, for all the reasons that BARBRI puts them in there for a reason. And yeah, it does tailor your learning, and it does, I think, make you an effective learner as well. And yeah, like you said, I couldn't put it in a better way. It's a big awakening. And it really puts things into context. Do you know your stuff, or don't you? And if you don't, that's fine. You just got to work out a strategy again, touch base with your mentor, and they can even modify your personal study plan to make it even more tailored to the weaker subjects. So that's a great feature as well of the courses that I forgot to mention until now. But yeah, I think we've sort of covered everything, unless you have anything else to add, Marion, before we go to the Q&A.
I think one personal thing for me that that I kind of picked up, and this is more kind of away from the course and more how I tackled the course, would be, I mean, myself and Helen, we work Monday to Friday, and it's very tempting for most of us to sit down on a weekend to do your assignments, or sit down and do your preparation, your studying.
Yeah.
And one thing I will say is maybe doing something during the week is actually better.
Yeah.
To just because one thing I felt was that when I would sit down on a Saturday, I felt so almost stressed and almost already demotivated, because I knew I had all of my assignments for the week to get through. And because the last time I'd actually seen all of these assignments, or the last time I'd seen my personal study plan, was the last Sunday or last Saturday. So the assignments on your preparation course are very flexible. There's a variety of assignments. You know, you've got things from lectures to practice questions to maybe just reading an outline. There are a variety of assignments. There are things that you can do during the week or while you're up and about. So let's say Monday to Friday, even if you are busy, we can guarantee that there's probably at least one assignment as part of your weekly assignments on your personal study plan that you can do throughout the week, whether it be early in the morning, in the evening. You can constantly be doing something on your personal study plan, so that when you do sit down on a Saturday or a weekend, or whenever your designated study time is, it doesn't feel so disheartening, because you know that you've at least alleviated some of the workload and you're spreading it out. I think as well, it's good to keep your mind active. Like I said, if you sit down every weekend, you know the last time you looked at your prep was the last week. It's just more of a mental game as well, just to kind of feel like you're constantly doing something. You don't want to feel like you've got prep on one hand and your other life on the other hand, and you're constantly sifting between two different masks. You do want to keep it constant throughout the week, and that's my advice. I just think that it's more of a mental game, more of motivation when you sit down and you actually study.
Yeah, that's a very good tip. Mental game planning as well. So yeah, this is as much a mental exam as it is a knowing your subjects. You've got to get in the right mindset. And to do that, you need to put yourself in a very good mode of studying. So for me, I think in many ways, actually working from home has helped as well, because before this pandemic and the situation, when I was commuting into London, I was just listening to lectures on the go, on the train into London, and that sort of thing, as I think most people would, or reading my outlines on the train into London and on the way back. But actually now working from home, become much more efficient, because the moment I finish work, I'm at home anyway. So I have my dinner, have my tea or whatever, and then I can get straight into studying an hour later, and I can really focus for a couple of hours a day. I wouldn't do any more than 2 hours a day. And then the weekends, I try to do more, about 5 to 6 hours a day, if I can, but nothing too intense. But naturally, as the exam leads in, I mean, July's a way away from now, about 6-7 months away. Obviously, you'll be up in your game, like anything, as any exam. So, yeah, it's a good tip as well. Good. I think that's all. I think we covered pretty much everything. Let's just go through the questions. What I'll do, I'll read them out, and Marion, maybe if you want to answer. So, got a question from Amanda. She's saying, did you guys use OneNote or some other Microsoft application to track assignments, or was this all done on the BARBRI platform?
Oh, okay. So, your preparation course, whichever course you decide to opt for, will be delivered via our online platform called the Personal Study Plan. So you'll be given, the access and the relevant link, and you will log into your platform. You'll have your own, login. You'll log into the platform, and you will find your personal study plan. And this is our platform, and this will have all of your assignments broken down into a weekly guide. You do not need to use anything else. There's nothing else you need to track. We, as in not me and Helen, as in BARBRI, will track your progress. Everything is available on the personal study plan. There's nothing else that we were using.
Yeah, it's all done through the personal study plan, as Mariam says. There's no other application, and it's all, the heavy lifting, so to speak, is already done. So, yeah. And then the next question is from Philippa. How soon into the course will we be given full practice exams, or are they always available?
So you will have access to everything. So one thing, it's not like other courses where things might be assigned on a weekly. You have access to the whole program, but we've broken it down. Again, we, BARBRI, have broken it down into a weekly guide. So you will be able to sift through your assignments on a weekly basis. So if there are practice questions, you will be able to access them, and you can, go ahead and skip maybe, let's say, for example, this is completely random. Let's say in week 15, you've been assigned a practice question. You will have access to that in week 1. You have access to the whole course. You can sift through all of your assignments. Do we recommend you do it at your practice exam on week 1? No. And we do recommend that you can go on and complete more of the personal study plan. We do recommend you keep in line with the weekly guide. Again, as we've said throughout the whole, our experts have curated this and have already done the hard work for you. I'm not too sure at what point you will be assigned practice exams for whatever course, but yes, practice exams will be a part of, will be given to you as part of a preparation course, and you will have access to them. Hopefully that answers the question.
100% agreed that obviously it will all be fully available the moment the personal study plan has been activated and the course has begun, but wouldn't obviously recommend to do it early. Again, it's back to that first point I think that we made, is trust the process and keep going with the program and the course until those exams arise, and you'll get time to do those. So yeah. And another question from Philippe is, in terms of study time over the week, how many hours per day over 5 days do you think we should allocate?
This depends on what course you opt for. So myself and Hemant, we're on the part-time study. So we're on a course that recommends around 10 to 15 hours of study time per week. And breaking that down, it's just over 2.5 or just under 2.5 hours of study time a day. Right?
Roughly,
Did I make that up?
Yeah.
Roughly around 2.5.
That's what I do. 2 hours a day in the week, which is coming out, if you're doing Monday to Friday, that would work out to 10 hours. Yeah. And then over the weekend I'll do,
and just, I don't know if I maybe answered your question just with the previous answer, but you have access to the whole course. So you can go at it at your own pace. You can decide to do it on a daily, you can do some assignments each day. You can sit down on a Saturday, for example, and complete all of your week's assignments. It's completely up to you. It's a flexible program, and like I said, you have access to everything. You may fall behind, and I'm quite guilty of the assignments piling up and having to sit down and play catch up. That's it's got to this point now where that's a common habit of mine. But the course is flexible and it's completely up to you. But this will depend on what course you've decided to enroll onto and the recommended study time in line with that course duration. If you have a specific query, just ask.
And for SQE 1 prep, I mean, there'll be 3 course options: the 40-week, 20-week, and 10-week course. So the 40-week course is about 10 to 12 hours of learning a week. 20-week one is 20 hours a week, and the 10-week one is obviously very intense. So it's about 35 hours of learning a week. So ultimately, you'll figure out how many hours you'll need to allocate per day and naturally per week as well. So, and then we got a question from Elizabeth. Do you work in the same time zones as your mentors? If not, how do you work around this?
Very good question. Well, for the SQE, you are going to be in the same time zone as your mentors, so don't worry about that. More for me in heaven. I think with Odessa, I think I'm mostly book my calls in the evening, because that's when
she's based in the States. All the mentors on the extended US bar prep courses are based in the States because naturally they're American lawyers. Odessa's based, I think, in North Carolina, so East Coast. So she's not too far behind us. She's 5 hours behind. Most of the mentors, actually, I think, are based either in the Midwest or East Coast. I don't think we have any on the in California time zone, West Coast. So they're not too far behind us. But the mentors actually, they work to your schedule and to a mutually time zone. That's mutually available for both. So I think like Marion, I book my calls late afternoon, evening time. It works for me, and Odessa's really accommodating as well. There will be some weeks where she's just obviously very busy, because she looks after many other students as well. But on the SQE, all the mentors are UK based. So if you're obviously based in the UK and you're doing the SQE with BARBRI, then you're fine. You're in the same time zone. Naturally, if there's other students in other time zones on the SQE, then they'll work to your time zone as well. So I think hopefully that answers your question. But they're really accommodating. Is the answer, I think. Yeah. And we have a question from Philippe. Thank you. I was referring to 40-week course starting from January 2021. Yeah, so that's, again, 10 to 12 hours of learning a week. So I think you should be doing 2 hours a day, roughly, per se. And that's averagely over a 5-day week. Yes.
Yeah, but that's completely up to you. So that's our study recommendation, and that will be reflected in your assignments. So the amount of assignments or the nature of your assignments will reflect that recommended study time. But it's up to you now. You can sit down technically and complete the whole course. Wouldn't recommend that, but that's something that you can do with our platform. You can sit down, do 3 weeks on end,
you can skip
do
ahead.
2 weeks.
Yeah,
it's a flexible personal study plan. So our study time guides, they are recommendation and they are guides, and that will reflect what your assignments will look like on a weekly basis. But it's completely up to you how you want to go about it. We've recommended just doing that was our personal tip. We find that sitting down on a weekend to complete your assignments sometimes can be a little bit demotivating just for us. I think Hemant agreed with me. Sometimes it does kind of wear me down just as a mental game. It's nothing to do with the work. It's just when I know that I haven't touched anything for a week and I sit down, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, sometimes you just don't want to do it, and that's fine. Exactly. That's just human nature, I think. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Good. And then there's Elizabeth's asking, you mentioned doing full-time work at the same time as completing the course. How do you find a work-life balance? It's a very good question. You want to take this one, Mariam?
Sure. So it's definitely possible. It's not the most fun time of your life, of course not. You will find at times that you are, balancing two different workloads. You've got work and you've got studying. It's very doable, and this is why we've recommended doing something throughout the week just to kind of alleviate the kind of pressure that you'll feel when you sit down and complete those assignments. It isn't definitely manageable, and it's finding a routine that works for you. Like we said, it's not the most fun thing in the world. We're not going to lie to you and pretend that we love it, and that we've decided to do this for a reason, and we're working with a very flexible preparation course, and it's just finding and it's learning more about your preparation course, the personal study plan, the different assignments that are part of the personal study plan, and finding a routine that works for you, talking to your mentor, and just establishing a routine so that you're comfortable for however long, 20 weeks, 40 weeks, 10 weeks, however long you're doing this preparation course. It's about finding a routine that works for you.
Yeah. And I think at this stage, because we're intended to sit July 2021, still got 6-7 months away, so we're finding it okay. But I think naturally as the exam nears, we will be intensifying our studies naturally, and things in, I think, our personal life where if we're talking to friends or things like that, will be taking a back burner or a back seat. So I think that's just part and parcel of this course. Like any exam, I think, that you're preparing for, you will naturally have to study more and more to prepare and to pass this. So at the moment, I think it's great. I'm finding the work-life balance absolutely fine. Actually, it's working out even better, I think, as I mentioned earlier, because we're working from home. So we're not having to worry about that commute, particularly because I live quite far away from London. So sometimes when I'm commuting on the way back, I'm tired. And so I don't want to study. I just either want to watch a movie on my iPad or sleep sometimes, just on the train back home. But we don't have that now. And so, in fact, it's helped me become much more efficient with my studies. So yeah, but you will get used to it. And again, I think, like Mariam said, you'll find your routine. Absolutely. And then another question is also, thank you. I'll be studying remotely from Japan, so 9 hours ahead of the UK. Okay. So, and I assume that she's going for SQE, 40-week course. Yeah, 9 hours ahead. So, but yeah, the mentor will certainly work for you.
Sorry.
Yeah. We're lawyers, not mathematicians. but yeah, the mentor will certainly work to your schedule for sure. And to be honest, most of the BARBRI students are based worldwide anyway. And the mentors have been much more very accommodating, and they get where you're going to be based in other parts of the world. So they'll make a call to your needs and schedule. And sometimes they'll even go out of the way to go make calls on the weekends as well, if you want to call on a Saturday or Sunday, whatever works for you, I think. So that's really good about the mentor. And obviously the program is completely online as well. So not being based in the UK or in the States, if you're doing the US bar, isn't going to hinder you at all. And we have a question from Militia. how do you find not being in face-to-face classes with other students?
So one thing that BARBRI does, and I know that they'll be doing this for the SQE as well, is you will be added into a WhatsApp, if you choose to, if you want to, added into a WhatsApp group chat with all of the other students who are enrolled on the same preparation course preparing for the same exam as you. So for example, if you're enrolling onto the SQE1 40-week prep course that starts in January for the November 2021 exam, you will be placed in a group chat with all of the same students preparing for the same exam course length. And that's your opportunity to actually talk with students and converse with students and establish a relationship with students going through the same experience as you. You'll all be from different backgrounds, but it's your opportunity to actually engage with other BARBRI students. This group chat is not facilitated by BARBRI, so you can go on ahead and do what you like. It's not a BARBRI platform. This is completely separate. And that's an opportunity for you to engage with other students. How do we find it's very different to law school, which was very university based. So it is very different, but you do have that interaction with other students if you'd like. But I think what it does is you're actually able to establish your own relationship with yourself and with your learning, and with your mentor. It's a very special relationship that you have with your mentor, because you're having that one-to-one time to actually be honest and be clear with your mentor what you're struggling with. And that's something that's very, very different in a face-to-face classroom with other students. So it's a very, very different experience to studying in the conventional way. I personally, I love the different aspect to it. I love the fact that you have an on-demand lecture that you can rewind a little bit if you miss something. I love the lecture. I love the fact that you can schedule a call with your one-to-one mentor and have that personal time. So for me, it's I really prefer the BARBRI prep course to a kind of conventional way of studying. What about you, Hemant?
Yeah, I think there's pros and there's merits and weaknesses in both forms, whether it's face-to-face and online. But for me, I guess I've always been an independent learner. And when I was going back to my LLB undergrad days, there were times where if I didn't get a point of law, whether it was in a trust lecture or land law or something like that, sometimes the tutors or the lecturers going at a pace, and they just, if you've missed something, that's it. You can only ask them maybe at the end of the lecture or the tutorial, but it didn't make for an effective learning. And I sometimes think when you're studying for a law degree or a master's, or for even something like a big professional exam like the New York Bar or the SQE, it's a very independent learning experience. So I found it to be, if anything, a benefit to me and to my learning, because again, going off what Mariam said, it's about that one-to-one mentoring with your mentor. You still can form study groups online. I think the future of learning is moving to an online format, given the circumstances that we're in, because we're all sort of forced to be learning online because of the situation. But notwithstanding that, it's helped me become an effective learner as well. And it's helped me actually understand how I'm learning to be better in the subjects where I'm not performing well, and why that is. I think in a face-to-face class, there's definitely merits, because you can collaborate with your peers or your colleagues, or even the tutor who's delivering that lecture or tutorial. But sometimes it can go at a pace where you miss something important. You're not able to go back. Whereas obviously with online, it's pre-recorded and you can rewatch the lecture again or go to a particular minute or time to go over that area. So yeah, I found it okay. Yeah, it's been good for me. So yeah. Good. don't think there's any more questions. Yeah, I think that's everything covered, but yeah, good. Mariam, do you have any last things you want to say about tips for success online learning before we go?
I think I put it all out there. We put our whole experience as students out there. Do you have anything?
Me? I think, yeah, I guess just a reiteration of what we said. All of the above, and trust in the process, and trust yourself, and know and get to really become active with the material. Make it engaging for yourself, because I think that's going to be the key to success, for sure. Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, good. Well, thank you, everyone. This was a pleasure. And Mariam, thank you for your time as well. Good. Take care, everyone.
Bye, everyone.